Welcome to Office Hours, guys. So we're gonna be looking through the reporting dashboard today, how to set up reporting, how to read your reports, all of that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we'll just jump right in. Okay, so we're gonna head over to the dashboard. And this is a demo account, so some of the information in here may be a little bit stale, but we will do our best with it. So we can click through and where I'm going to start here is just sort of a general overview of each one of these tabs. So the overview tab is just a very high level look at some of the key numbers in your business. This is really to give owners sort of a at a glance look at what's going on. You got the master activity feed here on the right for the entire team. You got your revenue, your sales for the current period, leads, quotes, all that just right here. But it's a very simple report. Then we'll jump over to leaderboard. This is where everybody that has been marked as a salesperson on your team is going to show up, and you're going to see how many inspections they've done, how many jobs they've sold, their contract value, their close rate. And so this is going to give some gamification of the sales process because those sales team members can also see this, but they don't see, for example, the contract value or the close rate of their teammates. They will see it for them here at the top, but they'll just see the number of sold jobs. But it allows them to compete against each other, and so that's that's the point of the leaderboard. Then we have the marketing tab. The marketing tab is meant for either somebody that is only focused on marketing in your business or the owner of the business in with their marketing hat on, thinking of the business from a marketing perspective. And this is important because all of these tabs over here, they do require you to sort of put on a hat of one area of your business and think about it from that angle. And so you might even see some similar terminology between the marketing tab and the sales tab, but because we're looking at it from two different perspectives, it may give you a different number. So that's important. As we start getting into these reports, one thing to point out is that there's a little information icon on each of these graphs. And that's really valuable because we've put that on every single graph. And so if you're ever wondering how a graph is calculated or why it's in the report or what it covers, you can quickly click and get some additional information about it. And also, I just realized I totally forgot to introduce Emily, who's our VP of Customer Success. She's a few months in now, and she's going to be taking over these office hours. And so I've invited her to start joining them um, for the time being. All right. Meant to do that at the beginning. So let's jump back in. Here on these reports, you can see the information icon. Down at the bottom, you're going to get some kind of a list of other numbers that you might find valuable. But the main reports, the most valuable pieces of information are probably going to have some sort of graph here. Doesn't mean these aren't important. You might have something here, but it's more like numbers that we can't put into a graph or are just sort of a lower priority. So here in the marketing tab, we're looking at things like where are our leads coming from? We're looking at by lead source, what's our conversion rate like? What's the breakdown of the outcomes from our inspections? So projects that are going to inspection, what's the percentage breakdown of outcomes? How much revenue are we collecting long term from each lead source? The whole purpose of this tab is to get a picture of how your marketing is doing and be able to make some decisions around what are your best lead sources, where are your sales coming from, all of that. We also have some reporting around referrals. So if you're using the referral lead sources, that's also being populated in here, and so that you can track people that are referring, like leads that were referred into the business, if you want to do any kind of referral rewards. All right. Let's go over to the sales tab now. Sales tab, again, we're putting on a different hat here. We're putting on the hat for the sales team. And so we're looking at this from the sales angle. And so we're going to have things like the mix for the current filters. So if I wanted to look in and look at dig down into a specific team member, for example, I can go look at the mix and see what percentage. So I think pretty much all of these are under one user. So that's a bad example. But if I go to services, I can look at what percentage of my projects are um, roof replacement. And so I can do that. I can look at how many projects have been won over time. Another valuable thing with any of these graphs that have the lists below them, you can just click in and open up the associated projects. You can start calls, texts, look at the activity, start automations. And so you have very quick access to actually take action on some of these reports. And we've added these lists of projects underneath any report where we feel like someone might want to take quick action. All right, over to production. Again, we're putting our production hat on. So we're looking at things like how many days does it take from when something is signed to when it is marked as complete. And when I say marked complete, that's the statuses. And we'll take a look at that here in a second because the statuses are very important for driving reporting. But we have the number of projects that have been completed, projects that are currently in production. So this is this is a report we want to build out more in the future, but this is designed for a production manager, someone that is over production and is looking at, is trying to optimize these things like days to completion. Cash flow is going to be looking at the actual money flowing into your business. So this is going to be the payments. So you're going to be able to look at a period of time and see how much revenue has flowed into the business. You're going to be able to see your accounts receivable. These are open invoices that have not been paid. You're going to be able to also see things, other indicators such as your current open quotes that haven't been signed, your sent quotes. So sent quotes and open quotes. This is where there is some sort of breakdown, some confusion, is the open quotes would be all quotes up to the current date that are currently open and unsigned, whereas sent quotes would be only the quotes that were sent during the selected period. Um, this is where these informational icons can be super helpful because we've broken down all of this in those informational areas. And so if you're ever like, okay, well, what's the difference between open and sent? There's a breakdown for it in that little information icon area. You also have approved quotes during the period. So how many quotes actually got signed? So this is specifically looking at the dollar value because it's on the sales side, we're mostly just looking at how many projects were sold. But on this side, we're actually looking at the quotes themselves. How much revenue was signed for and contractually committed to. So cash flow is not only about current money flowing into the business, but how much money can we expect to flow in the business in the coming weeks or months? We also have referral reporting here as well. We have sort of referral reporting spread out throughout all these reports because every company might approach referral rewards differently. So if you want to pay people out when when the associated project has been completely paid and closed out, then you can use this closed referrals, which would be the referrals that and this is actually the person that made the referral, and then you have the projects that were referred underneath them. So this would allow you to keep track of who do I need to pay out this month of our people that have referred business to us. And so on the sales side, we also have referrals on here, I believe, but these are going to be the sold referrals. Where is this? Yeah, so one referrals, same concept here, but this is at the one stage, and then the marketing was leads that were coming in. So these were referred leads. And so depending on how you want to approach paying out, or if you want to even pay out referral fees at all, you can use one of those reports. Then we have the profitability report. This is an incredibly powerful report that allows you to look at all of your projects for a given period, and you can filter down and you can see what were our costs. Were they higher or lower than expected? What was our profit? What was our profit margin? So it just allows you to really get a good picture of how your organization is doing overall, rather than just kind of looking at these numbers summed up, you can break it down more by project, and then you can click in and get more details around those costs and the budgets on each project. Then we have the activity. This is just a little bit more of a deeper dive into what's going on inside your account, inside your ProLine account. So you got outgoing calls, incoming calls, outgoing text, incoming text. You have another master activity feed here, but this one has some filtering options on it. And you can look at for a specific team member, for example, how many calls did this specific member make out? Or what, and you can also just look at their activity here as well. Like, what did they do this last month? And you can just look at all of it, from edits to projects to messaging. You can really dive in and see how much work did this person actually do in the organization. Then lastly, we have the map report. This is something that we want to spend more time on right now. It's quite basic, but you can, if we let's let's do a wider period here. Um, if you're looking at a wide enough period, so you can see all your projects in one place. And so you can see what the groupings are, what zip codes they might be in, and you can like dive into your city, for example, and see, okay, where's the highest concentration of our jobs over the last year? And then you can filter in and see, okay, well, what's the highest concentration of roof replacements versus roof repairs? So this allows you to glean some valuable insights from a geographic standpoint on where your projects are located. And so that's a breakdown of the reporting end to end. Now, I see we have some questions, which is great. I'll get to those in a second. Before I get to those, I want to cover what drives this reporting and how to make sure that your reporting is accurate. The number one thing here to make sure that you do, and I would go look in your ProLine account right now and check this out, is go to stages. And then down here on the right, you're going to see all of the statuses associated with these stages. And I actually have well, it was put in here as an example of no status, but this is bad. If you see red, that is bad, almost always. Well, actually, 100%, it's bad. All stages inside of your account should have a status associated with them. Now, what's the difference between a stage and a status? The stages are what is visible here, and this is what you're moving projects in between and/or ProLine's moving them for you. This is the way that you organize the projects in your account. The statuses are a set of a set of values, which you can see here, that are the same for every single ProLine account. These cannot be edited. These are set. And the reason that we have them set is because we want to provide a very high level of reporting for our users. And the only way to do that is to have a very, very stable set of these statuses that we can use to determine where things are in the process. And whenever a project moves to a new stage, we update the associated status for that project, and then we also record the date that change in status occurred. So when a project moves from new leads to inspection scheduled, we're changing the associated status to inspection, and then also recording a date that this project moved to inspection on this date. This is what enables your dashboard in ProLine to be highly accurate, regardless of how you have your stages set up. The only thing you have to do to make sure this works is to make sure that you have the correct status associated with each one of your stages. We do want to have more of a breakdown of each one. I'm going to run through these really quick. I want to make sure we have some time for questions, but this list has grown over time, and so we are going to put documentation together that kind of breaks down what each one of these is, but they are also pretty self-explanatory. A lead is a lead. It's a new opportunity coming into the business that you haven't scheduled any kind of inspection with. As soon as that goes to a stage that would indicate that it's a scheduled for an appointment or an inspection, you would have that be an inspection status. So you can see we move here. An important concept here with the status is that if you're not ready to move to the next status, make sure that you keep the same status. That's actually super important because if you go back to lead here, that will completely destroy your reporting. So if you go lead and then inspection and then lead, very bad. If you go lead, inspection, this could be open and then we could go to open again, but it's you need to have a progression through your account. And there's some exceptions, and we'll look at that down here with lead rehash. But there's some exceptions, but you need to generally be moving the status forward as you go through your stages. So inspection schedule, creating quote isn't technically inspection, but because we're not ready to count it as an open opportunity yet because we haven't sent a quote, we're going to leave that as the inspection status. The next status here is open, which specifically in almost all cases is going to mean they received a quote. Now, the only reason that we don't call this like quote sent status is because there are certain types of business, especially around repairs, where you may not send a quote. You may just have them sign something real quick, or you might even just do it in a very transactional way where you're just taking some payment and you're getting on their roof. And it's not the best way to approach it, but we didn't want to tie this in too closely with quote sent, even though in most cases that's what open is associated with, is they've received a quote. So now they're an open opportunity for your sales reps to chase down and follow up on. Then from here, if you have you're going to want to have a stage for all your lost projects, and that's going to be lost. Disqualified is the only status on here that's kind of optional. You don't have to have a stage for disqualified, but it does improve the reporting somewhat if you do. So recommend that you have a disqualified stage with a disqualified status, and that way your team, if it's not a good fit, disqualified would mean that they're not a good fit for your company. So maybe you showed up and they're like, "Hey, can you guys install pools?" and you only install roofs. And in which case, like that shouldn't be counting against your close rate for that sales rep. And that's the whole point of the disqualified status is, okay, we're just going to rip this out. It's not going to count against anyone's close rate. It was not a good lead to begin with. Then once something goes to signed, insurance is going to be also in a stay open. During your insurance process, you're going to keep that project open. So that's why you see all these open statuses in the insurance pipeline. And then once it is won, whether that means that it was approved by the insurance or the quote was signed, you're going to want to move it to that one status. And then again, you're going to want to keep that project in the one status. Don't go back to a different status. So keep these projects in the one status until it's complete. That's going to be the next, these got out of order in this demo, but until that project has been completed. So all the way through production, you're going to want to use this one status. Everything that's currently in production stays in one. And then once it leaves production, because the job is completely finished, that's when we're going to a stage that has the complete status. And as these statuses are changing associated with the stages, that's driving all of ProLine's reporting. And then the final status is the close status. So this is the final step in the process for projects that have been completely closed is short for paid and closed. So completely paid, that's going to be the closed status. And then here's just an example of a project with no status, which is going to be unideal in pretty much every case. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this out. Oh, there's some projects in it right now. I'm just going to type example. Okay, so that's kind of how the statuses work. Now, if you're going and reviewing your account and you're seeing a bunch of statuses with no status, or you have things in the wrong order, it's not the end of the world. It's not ideal. Ideally, your statuses would be correct. But you can fix this in that if you just go ahead and assign the right statuses, when you change the status on a stage, ProLine will go back and extrapolate out based on the stage changes, the correct statuses as best we can for that project. So you can probably say the statuses have been wrong for the last 6 months in your account. You can probably get about 95% accuracy on your past reporting just by updating these statuses to the correct statuses. So that's once you update them, it's gonna automatically correct retroactively all the projects that were that have gone through your stages. So that's the good news here. It's not the end of the world. There'll be a few kind of dates that might be a little bit off, but it's for the most part, you're going to have solid reporting as long as you update all these statuses to the correct ones. And so that kind of sums up. This is just a high level overview of the reporting and the statuses that drive the reporting. So from here, let me jump into the questions that we have in the chat, and I will answer as many of those as we can while we're on this call. Okay. So first, what's up, Mark? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Mark's just saying hi. Kevin, if we have a marketer, do we need to purchase them a seat to see and run these reports? No, you can add them as a limited user. So you can go into your team, manage team, and you can add them as a limited user, which isn't charged. Limited users can't communicate with prospects. There's a lot of things they can't do inside a ProLine account, but they can view the reports. So you can absolutely add them as a limited user type. You won't have to pay for them and they have access. Just make sure to give them a permission profile that does give them access because these reports are all broken down in this dashboard access area of the permission profiles. Emily already answered that question, so thanks, Emily. Re-answering it. Um, Kevin asks, also a supplementer, can there be any way of tracking claims and their inflation after supplement? Does a seat need to be purchased for a supplementer? So once again, that can just be a limited user unless the supplementer is having to communicate with the customer. Yeah, if the supplementer needs to communicate with customers, then they will be a paid seat. That's there's some and there's videos that we have and documentation we have around limited versus regular users. So I don't want to go too deep on that, but the main thing here is do they need to communicate with customers? If the answer is yes, then they're going to be a paid seat. If the answer is no, then they can be a limited seat. For as far as tracking supplements, we have a new feature called jobs that we do intend to support sort of a sub track to track these supplements. But what I've also seen is people will add additional stages in their building pipeline that are past paid and closed or around paid and closed, or even a separate pipeline called supplementing. The main thing here is you're going to want to, like, we don't do any sort of reporting around supplementing. So once something goes into supplementing, all of those stages should be closed. And so otherwise, it's going to mess up your reporting. So once someone has been completed and you've received the money for the project, even if it's not all the money because you're going to supplement it, you still want to have, I guess if you wanted to, you could leave it in the complete status for the supplementing. So you could just have a stage share for supplementing. I've seen that approach before. It just depends on whether or not you want from a reporting standpoint to consider that project paid before or after you've completely supplemented it. But yeah, you can absolutely add as many stages as you want here for supplementing. But as far as tracking the details of supplementing, you could have a separate supplementing pipeline if you wanted to. But again, our intention is for this jobs thing that we're gonna be building a lot more around jobs in the future. But you could have a service in your account for supplement, and then you could create a job under that service, and then with the job created, you can that's missing something. But if there was a job stage, let me see. I'm not sure if this account is set up for job statuses. Ooh. Yeah, so here's an example of like you have a sub track here that you can follow for job stage. And you could have a supplementing service and then have sub job stages for that service. And you can track that separately from the project as well if you wanted to. Still don't have any sort of reporting around it, but that is an approach. Kevin's other question here is I'm trying to see if there's a way of job costing for roofs that we are supplementing, not that we are supplementing as a service. Um, I'm I'm just not as I'm not very knowledgeable about the details of supplementing, so I couldn't tell you, to be honest. It's something that we'll probably explore, and somebody on our team will probably do some customer discovery around it so that we can build tools for it. But as of today, I would point you towards the budgets and make sure that you're using the budgets and your job costing here in the budgets. I don't know if that's going to be different than job costing for for other type of job versus job costing for an insurance. I would assume it's the same, so it might just be covered. I don't know, but I don't know if you're referring to some sort of like special job costing thing that's different than maybe a retail job. But our budgets are extremely robust, and you can track all your job costing here, and then you can absolutely track also any additional supplement revenue that you get in. It's just not necessarily designed specifically for supplementing. Mark asked, can you go over what a structure page is versus an option page? We really want to stay. We're actually about 2 minutes out from ending the call, but Mark, um, I we're just not going to be able to cover anything else outside of quotes. But I please do reach out to support in the chat inside of ProLine, and they can walk you through all the details of structured pages versus option pages. It's a very powerful feature for sure. So definitely dive in with support or your account manager. I'm gonna take a look at the Q&A here from Brandon. Does the leads get automatically placed in the stages when they are assigned, or do you have to manually switch them over? I'm not sure what you mean by that question, Brandon. If it, I think it all depends on how you have your ProLine account integrated with your website or other lead sources. You can push it into any stage, but generally speaking, you would want to have, because all this is customizable, you would want to have a new lead stage, and we pre-populate all ProLine accounts with a new lead stage, and then that's where you would want to have any new leads go into automatically when they get created in the system. And you, unless it's over the phone and manually being created, which you can do that way too. But besides that, everything else should be integrated with your Proline account to automatically get added in. Other question here, are team members ever displayed on the stages, or is it only just leads and the members are within the project details? Yeah, the members are within the project details. So you can filter. Um, So we don't have user filters at the moment. We do kind of. So you can do my projects, which would show you only things assigned to you. And then you can switch. If you're an admin, you can switch between users in the account. But it is something we're going to look at is adding like more robust user filtering on here. But no, the users would not be visible here. Like this is for your projects. And then if you need to see who's assigned to something, you would open the project. Next question, how can project tags be beneficial and what type of tags would be good? So we pre-populate every ProLine account with some sort of base level project tags. And so I would just that's what we recommend. So like when it comes to what would be good, it's what's already in the account out of the box. But the main like the most valuable thing out of the box that we set up with project tags is the ability to add a project tag for blacklist. So the concept of blacklist is if it's a bad customer that you want to minimize communication with and you don't want to ask them for a review, then you would put blacklist on the project. And then once it's blacklisted, based on how you have your trigger set up, once it gets to paid and closed, generally you're going to have a campaign trigger here for review requests to start asking for reviews. But you would want to have another trigger above it that just blocks that if it has the blacklist tag. And so this is all set up by default. Like every single ProLine account has this. So unless you've edited or changed it or deleted stuff, it's already set up and ready to go. But this is going to be the most immediate valuable project tag, but you're welcome to use them for anything else as well in addition to that. Let me jump over. We're going a couple minutes early, or over, but I'll try to get these other questions in the chat. 100% Brandon. Absolutely. Mark asks, you mentioned stages, appointment scheduled versus creating quote, and that we wouldn't want to move someone from appointment scheduled to creating quote, but wouldn't that be the natural flow of things? Mark, I was referring to the statuses, not the stages. You can move anyone between stages. Uh, so what I was talking about is on your stages, specifically, the statuses need to flow top to bottom. So what is going to be really bad is if you have like this. This is going to be really bad. This is going to mess up all your reporting. If the statuses are flowing from, because you're going to mostly be moving projects from new lead to inspection scheduled to creating quote to quote sent. You might move them back and forth. It doesn't really matter. But the main thing is making sure that the flow of the statuses matches the flow of the stages. And so if you are going up the list of statuses instead of either maintaining or going down, then you're going to have issues with your reporting. And so that's the what I was referring to here when it comes to the statuses. You're welcome to move your projects through your stages, however which way you want. And yes, the natural flow would be from new leads to inspection schedule to creating quote to quote sent. The main thing to take into account for reporting is the statuses that are assigned to the stages. All right. Thanks for all the questions, guys. That was a great session, and we are a little bit over, but we're gonna wrap it up there. So thanks so much for joining. This is being recorded, and it's going to get posted out on YouTube here, hopefully within the next week. So if anybody wants to review it, you can review it there. And yeah, thanks, guys.